Hey guys, First Bill Comic Book University and Doctor Strange, issue number 20. Guys, I liked this comic, even though there was a lot of really weirder, and weird-est things that were going on here. That's actually the title of the comic. Anyway, guys, what happens is that Doctor Strange transforms himself into a dog. I like that we could see that his magic is slowly increasing ever since the time of the Empirical. I really dig that. So he's able to do his little shape-shifting, turns into a dog, talks a little trash, forgets a little something, a bit of information that winds up getting him caught, and he has to get away, and he transforms back into Doctor Strange. That's when we realize it's actually Strange, but yeah, anyway, he was trying to get his hands on this wand. So he got his mouth on the wand instead and ran off with it with Zelma, the librarian who had joined him back in issue number 1 of this series. I did stop reading this series for a little while. There were, I think, 4 issues that I missed, but it doesn't seem like I missed that much at all. I am going to go back and try and grab those, but I'll probably wait a couple months till they come out in the app, unless I can find them in like a dollar bin someplace and I'll snag them. But in the meantime, this comic, we get to see that he goes off into Weird World. Guys, I liked Weird World, as weird as it was and as hard as it is for me to pronounce for some reason. That world, Weird World, was awesome. Right back in the Secret War days. That was good stuff. Anyway, so he goes there, and Morgan Le Fay, we don't actually see Morgan Le Fay, but she's name dropped several times. The Magma Men show up, and yeah, this girl, Zelma, is able to... Doctor Strange gets shot by an arrow that is poisoned in dragon bile, and it's killing him. But the antibodies that he's accrued has allowed him to fend that poison off and keep him alive. Well, all that's left is the wand, which she uses on a Magma Man, and it causes her to vomit. I like that, because this is going all the way back to the beginning of this series, where it talks about the toll that using magic takes on the body, the way that the magic changes you. I really like that, and I love the consistency in this story, at least. We're going to get into one of the parts where I don't like, but regardless. And then there's also a spell book there, some of the last spells that still exist, that still work. So she starts trying to read them off, and eventually she gets to one where she winds up taking the poison out of his body and transferring it into her own. Now, she should have died immediately. But what happened is that she's been out in Weird World. Oh, I did it first time that time. Anyway, let's not jinx it. And she developed some magical antibodies of her own. Plus, she's been eating the local food, and which is just grubs mostly, and all sorts of things like that. That's actually interesting. And bang, she now has just enough immunity to get along for a couple more days. Doctor Strange is able to get her out of the situation. They get all the way back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and the only way that she can survive, she wakes up just enough time so that she can say that, yes, she's good with this. And Wong winds up quitting because Doctor Strange wants to do this. He basically gives her some of his own antibodies, and a little bit of his own essence through some magical bug thing. Anyway, and she is now magically imbued. She can now open her third eye, and she can see everything that's going, like way back in the very first issue of the series. And it just feels like such a great return to the beginning of this series. Like it's all come full circle, and she is now ready to continue. And she doesn't want to go back to this. Strange is saying, listen, you'll go back to normal after a little while. And she's like, I don't want to go back to normal. I love being able to see this stuff. I love being in your world, actually in your world. And it really is cool. I mean, come on, who the heck would want to give up something like that? This was just amazing. This is amazing. Guys, I'm going to give this comic a B-. This was really good stuff, and I love reading this. Very small problems I have with this is that we're having like a immediate retcon that if you don't know the past of Doctor Strange, you might not understand what happened here. Apparently, Wong never had a wife. Wrong. He did have a wife. In fact, Doctor Strange was actually partially responsible for her death because he chose not to save her and to save him instead, to save Wong, because, oh, he's my friend for a long time, even though Wong would have wanted him to save her instead. So he actually quit Strange's service and punched him in the face a couple of times. That was actually very interesting. Also, Strange says that he's only been practicing magic for a couple of years. Now, I know that Marvel has a sliding time scale, but you absolutely never have to do that with Doctor Strange, because there was a time when he had been contacted by the Vishanti. There were 2 times, actually. The one time he accepted to go to this magical war. and this war took 3,000 years. He lived for that entire 3,000 years, battled, became the most impressive Sorcerer Supreme ever, surpassing the Ancient One who'd only lived for 500 years, and boom. So Doctor Strange is, for all intents and purposes, long-lived immortal. Okay, he can be killed, but he essentially will never die of old age. So, bada boom. Doctor Strange has been alive for well over 3,000 years, but now apparently, at least according to Jason Aaron, the writer, that has changed. So not even just a sliding time scale thing that Marvel usually does, but an actual retcon. Or maybe he just didn't know the story. Hey, you can't know everything here. But hey, Jason Aaron, you are awesome. Even though maybe you don't have everything down as far as Doctor Strange's history, you definitely have Doctor Strange's personality down, and it's amazing what you're doing. And if you ever want a little more on Doctor Strange, Comic Book University is tuition free. I'm just saying. Also, I just want to give a really quick shout out to the artists and colorers, Chris Bachalo and Kevin Nolan. Absolutely amazing. Like, I never reviewed the Doctor Strange comics. I did the Doctor Strange and the Sorcerers Supreme, plural. I always did those because I thought that was going to go on a little bit better, but no, I'm not so fond of that one anymore. I kind of wish it was just end. And this one, I always did love this one. I really probably should have just kept going with this one the entire time. I think I'm going to stick with the story now that Secret Empire had me do one a couple weeks ago. But either way, really enjoying this. This was just such a great circle of life type issue for me. Anyway, guys, Professor Bell, Comic Book University, class dismissed.